Hi everybody, this video is sponsored by contribution from Anonymous, and here's her story. Hi Ali, I'm still going to request that you keep me anonymous, but you made a video for me last year that made a very big difference in how I approach important aspects of my life as a survivor. While the process of recovery from abuse is a kind of work that really cannot be made easy, there are things we can learn to make the job possible. I have been doing a lot of heavy lifting in recent months, but you taught me to use my legs rather than my back, and that's made it possible. I have a lot of respect and gratitude for that video and for many others I've watched. My question about the topic of self-hatred. Many times a day I find myself thinking or saying I hate myself. I never felt that way, at least not consciously, about 5 years ago, which is interesting considering that I was raised and educated mostly by people who either hated or ignored me. But I still seemed to be more or less okay with myself until my early 30s. I think the trigger was when I got sick a few years ago, and at least for a while, I was too scared to make appropriate choices regarding my healthcare needs. I wasn't able to protect myself from predatory presences in the medical industry because nearly everyone who claimed to care about me was punishing me in the same direction. No matter how poorly my treatment was going, and no matter how many times I reminded people close to me that I'd been the victim of malpractice before, and this felt a lot like bad medicine again. My narc mother and all my friends insisted I was getting wonderful care, and I couldn't recognize it because of my PTSD from malpractice that nearly killed me as a child. All the time I was too codependent to realize that yes, everyone around me could be wrong regarding what was best for me. I guess I don't have to tell you that in the end, I realized I'd been trusting the wrong social circle all along. And that became devastatingly apparent when I finally decided this was yet another case of malpractice and just stopped seeing the doctor. Like I think I've heard you say, the narcissist is sadistic by nature, but you haven't seen the half of it until you say no. I refused to continue seeing an extremely expensive doctor who couldn't diagnose me with anything and told me I was very healthy 31-year-old with a strong immune system, yet had me pounding close to a dozen potentially neurotoxic pills down my throat daily and seeing absolutely no improvement. That's a sane adult response. If something is not working, especially if you have reason to think it might do you harm to continue, it's smart and competent to stop doing it. I also thought that was obvious, especially when I figured out independently what my doctor mysteriously missed. I was starving. Due to the stress of my childhood, I never really developed a recognizable hunger mechanism. And so when my activity level rose sharply without fully realizing it, I didn't know how much of a caloric deficit I was running. As soon as I started eating more, my illnesses went away. The fact that my wonderful doctor couldn't recognize starvation didn't deter my so-called friends from their insistence that the doctor was wonderful and I should be taking her pills, even though study after study has indicated that some of them pose the threat of the central nervous system damage to all those dosages long term. The doctor had said she wanted me on them for life. I refused to give in, and so most of the people I knew who I thought loved me abandoned me, telling me I was basically too crazy to know that I was screwing up my own life. Some hung around longer than others, but most were gone in a few months, and I really knew I had been emotionally abandoned for a long time before they slammed the door in my face. That's the time I remember hating myself. I hated myself for going to the doctor. I hated my body for being too stupid to give me a sign that I was hungry before I lost all that weight I got to feeling sick. I hated myself for having almost lost everyone I love, and I hated myself for having trusted a pack of personality disordered abusers like this to begin with. Tragically, my devastation at all this triggered depressive and dissociative problems, such as I had trouble remembering or recognizing who I was, what I felt, and what I wanted in life. So before long, I had more reasons to hate myself. I hated myself for dating and getting engaged to an abuser. I hated myself for letting him take over my house and my life and my money and my emotions until I basically had nothing left but a bigger than ever mountain of debt. I hated myself for working another lousy job with another abusive boss. I hated myself for getting into an accident working in a hazardous environment, and I hated myself for everything that happened when I tried to get health care for the injury. Nowadays, I just kind of hate myself for about everything, for every other thing that happens. I cry, I scream it. I'm sure the journaling I've done on it could fill a very long and depressing book by now. I hate myself for everything from my truck breaking down to getting laryngitis to stubbing my toe on a chair. I have a history of self-injury, and though I've now been self-injury free for 11 years, sometimes I get violent urges towards myself, and I have to sit perfectly still for a few minutes to be sure I don't do anything to myself. No matter why or how it manifests in the moment, the self-hatred is exhausting. I can't think that it's helping me create the life I want either. In some important ways, I'm having more success than I used to think was possible. Enjoying more confidence and intimacy in my existing relationships, thanks in great part to the advice you offered me in the video last year. And I am making better money these days and continuing my recovery, sometimes in pretty impressive leaps and bounds. And there's still more work to do. I think it must be really hard to make a happy life for someone I hate, sometimes to the point of feeling violent multiple times a day. I'd like to learn to be consistent, non-abusive ally to myself. But when I get to hating myself, it's so crazy making I just can't think. Sometimes as a young girl, I was in so much physical pain from abuse that it actually blinded me and turned off my capacity for organized thought for 5 or 10 seconds, to the point that I'd literally start running blind in whatever direction wasn't physically blocked off. Not realizing what I was doing or where I was going, I'd just collapse and cry when my vision cleared. I knew what was going on again. 20 years later, I have discovered that there is an emotional equivalent, and that's the experience of self-hatred. The same way my primal mechanism sent me running through the house in terror in response to unbearable physical pain, even though there was nowhere to go. It seems that today, my fight mechanism responds to unbearable pain and pressure by hating me and wanting to literally beat myself up, even though that does no good at all. It's crippling. Do you have any ideas on how to move past this self-hatred so I can be on my own side full time? Thank you so much. I wish you wild, wonderful success with your growing channel, your family, your health, and every good thing you care about. Anonymous. Well, I think we all can understand the self-hate. It's crippling. I don't know if it's so much self-hate as the anger at yourself for not seeing it. You're mad at yourself over narcissistic abuse. You're mad for not seeing what was so obviously in front of your face. So you beat yourself up and you abuse yourself to the point where you're now where you cause physical pain. Not now, because you haven't had it in 11 years. But it's something you've done in the past. You beat yourself up because you didn't see what the narcissist was doing. Because you're angry over what was so obviously in front of your face and you couldn't put a finger on. In my opinion, and I don't know if you've ever tried it before or what your deal is with work or environment or like that, with your self-hatred issues and your appetite issues or your inability to eat, okay, these doctors want to throw you on every pharmaceutical because they're getting kickbacks from the pharmaceutical company. We know how this works. We know how this works. Now, I know there's a lot of stories on here with people who get involved with with marijuana, medical cannabis. But I've told people, and I'm very open about it, it's worked for me. It's helped me with a litany of things. And I'm not saying it will help you or it'll be a cure-all to everything, but it's something you should look into because it'll definitely help you with anxiety, especially indica strains, which are very soothing and relaxing and will stimulate your appetite and make you feel better. So you're mad at yourself thinking it's self-hatred when you're really mad at your narc. Direct the self-hate and the anger where it belongs, at the narc, not at yourself, because you're the victim. Thank you for your contribution and thank you for your story. I really appreciate it. Thank you to everybody watching. Please leave any opinions or advice in the comment section below. And again, if you want your story read on the channel, you have a narcissist you'd like to expose, or a topic you'd like me to cover, you know what to do with the PayPal and my email links in the description box. I'll have the video right back to you. Sally Matthews, thanks for watching. See you all again soon.